well this season. The first London game is in the book. We've had it. I was about to say Denver Broncos, but that is to come. The Minnesota Vikings against the Cleveland Browns. Minnesota winning 21-17. We attended as media, which is absolutely fantastic. It was a pretty uninteresting game. I didn't even realize you bought tickets because you jokingly said, well, with Ray's playing halftime, I'm going to go. And I didn't think you were being serious, really.
Yeah.
And then you
yeah,
text us like, oh, yeah, we're just in our seats. And I was like, oh, right. Yeah. I didn't realize you were there, sort of thing.
Yeah, we went. Wife's a fan of Ray, and I don't mind her either. I think she's pretty good. So one of the bigger names for the halftime show. And aside from Quinshon Judkins, probably the most impressive part of the whole day, really. There was not a lot of action to it, which was a shame. But, I mean, it's the Browns, wouldn't it? And we knew that it was going to be Carson Wentz for the Vikings. So we kind of knew the game wasn't going to be amazing. So.
I don't know why, but I was a little surprised at how Viking dominant the fan base was.
Yes, very. Where we were, yeah, really dominant. I was surprised.
They've just all come from Dublin.
Yeah, that's what we were saying. So we were saying, and we were sort of like, whilst we were in the crowd, we sort of said that it's funny that when the Skull chant started, how much it was sort of like a Vikings home game to a certain extent is what it felt like. And it was a little bit like, we were sort of like walking back from the stadium going, I wonder how many people have made it like a 10-day holiday sort of thing, and they've gone to Dublin and then they've come over to here. And there was a lot of Americans. You can hear from the voices walking around, a lot of Americans, a lot of American Viking fans. So yeah, I think that's probably what's happened.
Yeah, I do think as much as we want as many UK people to fill it, or European people to fill it, I suppose there's always a lot of Germans, French, Austrians, that are Spanish as well, I suppose now, that do come to the game and buy tickets. But it is the Americans that make it in a way. It is that American home fan thing that does make it more exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I've got... Why would you have a problem with it? It's like fair play to him for coming over and traveling and stuff like that. I mean, you see it, don't you, with a lot of like, you see with the Premier League, you got European games, you get like people from over here go to the away ends and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't see what the issue is with Americans coming in and watching it over here. If anything, it kind of just adds a different dimension to the crowd, doesn't it? And stuff like that, which is not a bad thing. And I mean, from some of the reactions of yesterday, they might need a few more Americans from the way it came across. Anyway,
I mean, we'll stick with the game for the second, and then we'll talk about the larger picture of London itself, I suppose. But I mean, the press conference was fun. Unfortunately, didn't get to do any of the pre-practice presses this week. Unfortunately, I couldn't make any of them. But press conference was good. Sky commented upon with Justin Jefferson that he has that arrogance to him.
Yeah.
But he comes across incredible in press conferences. He's very good at them. And not in arrogant, and you can tell he knows he's the best, or thinks he's the best at least, and always brings that juice and stuff like that. And there's the bling and that sort of aspect, of which I did joke around. Jonathan Grenard was on the podium before. I will try and post this today. I'm going to try and post the press conferences for the questions I asked. But one of my question as he left is Jefferson came in, was on the side. And of course, he's got the huge jet. It's blinding as soon as he comes in. And I saw Grenard had like a couple of chains on underneath his like thing. And I said, "Oh, Jonathan, but before you go, obviously we're about to get a lot of bling come onto the stage. Do you want to maybe show off your jewelry before you go? You show." And he like, and Jefferson said something like, "Go on, John, like, come on, Grenard, do it." And Jonathan was like, "No, not really that guy, not my thing. More of a subtle jewelry sort of guy. I like my watches and stuff like that." And it was like very fun. And Grenard was great at the podium as well. I mean, I asked him quite a ballsy question of saying like, "Look, you win the game, great to get the W, but you're allowed 140 rushing yards. Not, that's a problem, isn't it? And he was like, yeah, unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. We've got to work on that. Our run defense at the minute is not up to scratch. And, it's hard in these press conferences because you want, we are mindful of, you've got to ask the right questions. And if you're going to ask a negative question, you've got to structure it in the right way. You can't just come out and be like, your run defense is terrible. You just can't do that. You're not going to get the answer. And also, we're very, very privileged to get this media access. And that's a very surefire way of not getting the media access is you pissing off the people. And they answered fantastic. I will die on the hill of Kevin O'Connell's the best person I've ever. I've been very lucky to have met and interviewed and watched a lot of people at the podium now. I'm very, very lucky to have done that. Best person by a mile at the podium. And he was the same again. It was the exact same again.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because he does come across as quite a sort of like, he's very willing. He's very sort of like a genial type of guy who's very sort of like kind of understanding to the media and willing to sort of like give out any sort of information.
Knew all the Minnesota media's names.
Yeah. That's something that you do. I mean, like obviously, you would know that sort of thing from being there, but it kind of it does feel very much like he comes across like that, and it's actually quite a it's something that I think you see like for me, Packers fan Matt LaFleur is a little bit like that. Sean McVay, it's very much that sort of coaching tree, isn't it? They're all kind of a little bit like that, and they're all sort of willing. I mean, there's a few that maybe are a little bit different. I mean, like someone like Mike McDaniel, who's come from that tree, is a little bit different. But the vast majority of them do seem to be like that, and I mean, it's only a good thing. There's no sort of, I don't see the point of, if you're a head coach, getting sort of like snarky at the media and stuff like that, and because they're just going to write loads of stuff about you.
Well, the job. It's part of the job.
When you get paid exactly. You got to get used to it.
You're going to have that. And I say this all the time. He talks in a way to you that is simple but not patronizing, and intricate but not difficult. He strikes that balance really well of talking about football to football, but his knowledge is obviously insane. He was ex-player, head coach. Your ball knowledge is going to be crazy, isn't it? But he doesn't dumb it down to the point where it's like, he even said in his thing, like he said something about like how I'm very much simplifying these words, but it's a bit of a joke that how much they think that American football is the be all end all sport of the world, and it really isn't, and that part of the job of doing this international stuff is to grow the game, because it's not the biggest sport in the world. And he was very, very, very clear on that. And like I said, I've dumbed down what he said. His answer was far more eloquent than what I've just said there, for sure. But he just comes across so well. And then in terms of gameplay, I mean, Quinshon Judkins, man, he's one of the most impressive north to south runners I've seen in live. Like considering, I know there was some problems at the start of the year and stuff like that, and we're not going to go into detail on that, but he just takes the ball by the horns, doesn't he? He's strong, physical, quick. It just felt like anytime he ran direct, he would get even more yards. He could break the tackle and go and go and go. So impressive.
I think the one. Sorry, go on.
If it weren't for the impressive play of people like Emeka Egbuka at the minute, you could argue offensive rookie of the year. I think already you could put him in that conversation for me.
I think the really impressive thing that it's weird. I mean, obviously you do see it on TV and stuff like that, but when you see it live in front of you, the ability to change from one foot to the other so quickly, and then just to do that little juke step across and then bang, and then you're gone. And it's like, and multiple times especially in that first quarter, but also like when because he sort of disappeared for the second quarter, he didn't really do much, and then he sort of came back in the second half and had a couple more big chunk runs. But multiple times it was like, if anyone is going to do anything on this field, it's going to be him. And that was kind of, and you know, you can't just, you know, obviously Jefferson had some great catches as well.
I do have to say that about Njoku as well. He has that.
Yeah, he did.
Has
in
that
fairness,
game changing.
He did have he did seem quite motivated in Njoku. He seemed quite up for it, and he did he did have a couple of good catches. I think that the problem with the receivers was very much that they were sort of hamstrung by the quarterback play. Which
what did you think? Rookie start, international game?
I didn't really think he did much, to be honest. I felt like it was so run heavy that it kind of became, and it's funny because when you actually look at the stats, it was 32 carries for the run game, but he had 33 attempts.
Yeah,
but it did not feel like that at all. It felt like it was all run game, and a lot of them are them sort
he
of.
He has no long ball. He has
no, not at all.
It's all underneath. It's all underneath.
It was all dump offs, wasn't it?
Unfortunately, in the NFL, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. If you do not have that ability to stretch the field, you're just not. It's just dink and dunk football, and the Browns don't need that. The Browns don't need. They don't need dink and dunk football. They need a quarterback that can drive them down the field if they're going to be effective on this offense. And say we want about Joe Flacco, age, everything like that, can push the ball down the field. Shedeur Sanders, I didn't watch him. I know you hate him. I hate strong word, but you don't think he's good. And then Dylan Gabriel, you were like, oh, he's all right. And actually, when I watched him, I was like, yeah, he's all right. He's exactly what you and Andrew pitched him to be. But I thought he was controlled in the right way. I thought he looked calm. I think it's a massive testament how calm he looked, I thought, to keep going. And I know you said he had it off, but to still make them dink and dunk plays, you've got to do it. He avoided a lot of sacks. Which helped, which probably was amplified by the fact that like Collins on the defensive line for the Browns seemed to just be eating up Wentz at times.
Yeah, I thought all right is probably the right word for him. He was okay, sort of thing. It was like you say, it was very much dink and dunk sort of thing. It was just sort of like chucking it down to the running back, or you know, you had your tight ends because he had a couple of throws to Fanning as well, where it was like, and I think that you know that can get you to a certain point, but like you say, it won't get you all the way. Ironically, I actually, having watched Gabriel play, I don't know what's going to happen in the next few weeks, but I could imagine if they don't win in the next sort of like 2-3 weeks, I think Sanders is going to get chucked out there. And I've watched Sanders on tape, sort of thing. Having watched him, he does have more of a long ball, and he can do all the passing down to the running back and the short passes to the tight ends in the same way that Gabriel can. And the problem that I have with him, which I actually think with Sanders, there's some real easy stuff that can be sorted out, and he can become an okay quarterback in the NFL. His problem is he holds on to the ball for too long. That's his problem. He never understood at Colorado that you can throw the ball away. Like, and it's just a college thing. Sometimes they just take forever to get rid of it. But yeah, I think that. So I think he will end up playing, but yeah, I don't see it working. There wasn't much there, I think, was the big problem. And the fact that Quinshon Judkins had 23 carries, and as I said, he pretty much disappeared for the second quarter. That's a lot of work for one guy. I mean, that, you know, you're talking like Derrick Henry numbers there. And I think that they will continue to use that run game as much as they can, and you'll probably see that the tight ends will get involved because that's pretty much all Gabriel can do.
Well, let's get on to the controversy of the day. And again, we feel as a UK podcast, we have to talk about these things, and we should talk about these things. And I think there is a lot more intricacies to all of these things than maybe we're going to talk about. And I can't push blame on things. There's people up the tree that I'm not going to push blame on because I don't know it well enough. You were more well informed due to social media than I was. I was obviously having to report on the game. However, I did see verbally and I saw visually the cues and stuff like that. But the One app, which I assume is the NFL One app, went down, and people that didn't download their ticket then couldn't get their ticket and were instructed to go to the ticket office, which formed incredibly huge queues, of which I did see a little bit of verbal abuse is maybe a strong word, but they were definitely exercising their right to be upset. Subsequently, fans who had them errors have been given 50% off gift card of the face value. A lot of it we have followed through the Twitter handle of @NFL UK_tickets, who have been pretty good with a lot of things that they say. They're not always harsh. They're quite fair at times. I mean, the also rumor is it's not going to be used for the Jets Broncos game this weekend coming up. Now, I think we're on a very interesting tandem at this point. Sorry, that's not the right word, really. A moment for the London games where we are seeing so much success around Europe and hearing so much success around Europe and what they're doing there. The London games now, the biggest cry out is people going, we need bigger and better teams, bigger and better matchups now. And then things like this happen. And for people who are spending a lot of money, the whole ticket thing in general is upsets people. But it's an upsetting time in the UK at the minute. Money is scarce. Morale is an all-time low. How do we boost morale? By doing things that make us happy. And then when you try and do the thing that makes you happy, it's getting ruined for a lot of people. You had your own problems aside from ticketing of getting in. That was more of a slip of the mind issue. I suppose. I mean, what was your? I was obviously in the media, and we are a little bit disattached from it all. Was there people around you? Did you feel like there was empty seats when kickoff came? I mean, it was. There's lots of things on Twitter saying that people were getting told that the game was going to be delayed for them, that they weren't going to get in even to the game. 2,000 people in the queue. I mean, a lot of this, we must add, is complete social media words written and anger. And I urge anyone to not believe everything they see on social media or the internet for that fact. So I know this is when there's two of us, it's more a discussion, but the question is, there is a question to you of what was your fan experience of that?
Yeah, it was. So we turned up probably a bit late compared to what most people would. We didn't really get to the stadium till about 10 to 2, and like I said, we kind of had our own thing where just completely and utterly forgot about the clear bag policy. So we had to go in, get a clear bag and all that. So we did that. However, the big problem is that so from what I've seen and what I saw myself, we turned up and there was a massive queue of people. And we were a little bit like, what the hell is this? What is it? At first, we thought it was for Beavertown, which I'm sure they would have been thrilled with. But we got closer to the stadium, and then we were like, what is this massive queue for? This makes no sense whatsoever. And it turned out it was for the box office because the app had gone down. Now, what had happened was that the whole thing just stopped working, apparently. No one could access their tickets. What I will say, because there were people that were coming out saying, we can't do it, we can't get our tickets, we can't access it. I downloaded my tickets and we downloaded it to the Google Wallet. And the reason that I did that was because it did say that you can do that. That was. I had a look again this morning when I looked back on it, and it does say you can transfer them to your Google Wallet or to your Apple Wallet if you want to do that. However, the wording on the NFL Pass One app was that you don't need to do that because you have it here, and that should be good enough. So that's where I think a lot of confusion has come in, because people haven't downloaded it to a Google Wallet or an Apple Wallet, which is understandable considering what happened. What I then had is, once we got to the point where we were trying to get in, there felt like to me, it felt like the stewarding, they didn't really know what was going on. There seemed to be a lot of confusion. We actually had a group, about 5 or 6 people, who were not, middle-aged, not young, not old. One guy had it on his phone. He clearly hadn't sent them, out to everybody, or if they had sent them out to everybody, they couldn't access it probably because the app wasn't working. And in the end, they just ended up barging through the stewards and going through the first line of stewards before they got to the metal detectors and all that. And it did kind of like,
which is behaviour you can't condone, really.
Yeah, exactly.
No matter how angry you are, how much money you've spent, you've got. It's frustrating, but something can be solved. There's no point reverting to anger or anything like that, because it's just not.
No.
But I understand. I get.
I think what I would say is that I can imagine that he has had it up to here with trying to deal with it, trying to go, as I say, talking to stewards who just didn't really seem to really know what was going on, and people being sent off to other people who didn't really know what was going on, and just complete confusion. And there were people online were saying that they had been queuing up since like 12:15, 12:30, couldn't get in. We're really struggling with this. So a bit of a nightmare all round. Apparently, as you said, from what I've seen, for this Sunday, the NFL One Pass app isn't going to be happening, although that's not been confirmed. And it seems like they're going to be emailed their tickets, and they will be able to then transfer them across into a Google Wallet or an Apple Wallet, which is what we all did last year, and it wasn't a problem. So
the argument people are coming with straight away, and it's a bit of tongue in cheek I've seen online, is whatever happened to the paper ticket. Now, I get that, understand that, very valid, but from an eco standpoint,
it's never going to change.
It is better. It is better putting them on your phone. The whole football, football in general at the highest level now isn't paper. It's not paper. They're all on you have your season ticket on there. You don't get your book or the wad anymore.
No.
Your ticket.
No.
From an ecological standpoint, it is better. You're not killing the trees. It's a lot of paper. It's a lot of cardboard, isn't it? But I do get also it's a sentimental value thing. I love keeping my tickets as well. I love.
You can get one, can't you?
Which you can, you can get one if you go to the box office. I believe you can get a printed ticket. Which, the ones I know, the ones for Tottenham, we get given a paper ticket for our seat in the media, but they're not like not branded. They're Tottenham Hotspur, the stadium branded. They're not like NFL branded. Not like the cool ones that you used to be able to get. But so I get where that is. But we're in a world now where it does happen with this way. But it'd be very interesting to see if this happens in the US. I don't know. For me, Tottenham Hotspur Football Ground hosts Tottenham Hotspur football team every single week. Are they using the same companies? Are they using the same companies for stewards? Are they using the same, surely there's got to be a relationship there. Maybe it is. Maybe I could be completely wrong on that. I don't know any detail on that. But there's clearly a discourse, and it's upsetting to me because the London Games, what it really didn't need was any bad PR.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because there's people on social media who already are not happy with how the NFL UK is going and the London Games are going, what we didn't need was coal for the fire. And this whole situation just adds so much coal to the fire. But it's upsetting. This is meant to be a time of celebration for us as NFL fans, as UK NFL fans. Like you said, with the US fans coming over, it's a relationship that is very deep between the US and the UK. We've seen it with governments and stuff at the minute. But it's meant to be a time of celebration and for meeting new people, meeting fellow fans, and things like this they just put a stain on it. And like how glowing we talked about Dublin last week, how glowing we talked about the Germany games, how glowing will we maybe talk about the Madrid game at Bernabeu, which I think that'll be a very interesting one for me, if I attend, but whoever does attend, we're very different countries. We're all very different countries, but the ones that are hosting it, and they're in different areas. And Tottenham needed that money from the NFL to be able to create it, and the fact that it is completely in where everyone lives, and there isn't ample amount of space for fan parks and stuff like that. But and Wembley does have that, but then Wembley has the handcuffs of, which is not NFL UK's fault, by the way, of the drinking laws that the Wembley Council have within that jurisdiction, that has angered and upset people as well. It annoys me when I go and I completely forget. And when I've been as a fan and having a beer on the street, and you're not like, because that's what these games are about. It's about a festival atmosphere. It's about a fun atmosphere. It's about a safe atmosphere as well, because this is what happens as well is this happens. And like you said, the anger happens and it becomes an unsafe environment. It becomes an unsafe environment. And that's a lot of children, a lot of people with disabilities and people that shouldn't, no one should be around violence. Of course they shouldn't, but that are more susceptible to that violence. And that's what's going to happen. People are intoxicated, people are upset, people are angry, people have spent a lot of money, people have come from miles, flown from miles to be at these events. And it just breaks my heart to see that that we've gone so full circle of the excitement of it all, the development of it all, back to sort of now at the beginning where we're like, well, what more now? We need more. And there's an unsatisfaction now, isn't there, with them just having the games?
Yeah, I mean, so one thing, I was talking to a few people on Twitter when I was on the train coming back, and and just they sort of said to me, "Oh, what do you think they should do?" Because and certain people came out with different ideas for things, and I know there was one person who came out and said that maybe it shouldn't be there for a year, and maybe if it wasn't there for a year, that would then bring some enthusiasm back to it from the country's point of view, or from the crowd's point of view over here, that they would be more interested. But obviously, that's not going to happen, because why would you stop? When you can just keep on making money, kind of thing. The one thing I would say, and there were clearly empty seats like that. This wasn't about people struggling to get in. All the way through the game, there were empty seats. Now, it wasn't not loads by any stretch, and there was what was it, 61,082? I think they said was the attendance. Now, obviously that takes into account all the ticket outs that have not sold their tickets and stuff like that. And there were loads of tickets on different sites on Sunday morning, and there were tickets on Sunday morning that were for general sale, which is, I believe, the first time it's ever happened. And it's the first time that I've ever been to an NFL game and there's empty seats. I mean, there was empty seats next to us. And I think there's an element of pricing. The NFL have kind of priced themselves out a little bit. I think that there's just general anger, certainly from older fans who have been going for years as season ticket holders, and they've lost their season tickets. And there was someone I read that he had a Category 7 season ticket, and a couple of years ago, and it was like 88 quid for a ticket, and now it's 130. And that price increase is like, what, about 45% in 1 year. And then I think there's just an element of apathy, because you're getting not particularly great games. And it's reaching a point where I think there needs to be some sort of realization that if you are going to charge these sort of prices, then you can't keep throwing the New York Jets at us, and you can't keep throwing the Cleveland Browns out. I know the Browns haven't been over quite as much, but do you know what I mean? The Vikings have been over for 2 or 3 times in the last sort of like 3 or 4 years now. You've got to bring in some form of variety to it, and also some form of quality. And my angle, very much what I was saying last night and what I still believe, you're never going to get them to drop the prices. That's not how this works. No business does that. So what you need to do is you need to get better quality. And I think you need to kind of appeal to them and almost be like, look, we have 3 games. Let's make 2 of them and have the Bucks, the Seahawks, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Steelers, the Packers, the Lions, any of these teams. But you have to have 2, one going against the other one. And I understand that is, if you're an American fan, you're going, well, why do I miss out on one of the better games? And I completely get that. But when you are making the NFL become an international brand, a priority, which is what the NFL are doing, they need to do that a bit more. And unfortunately, I think unless the quality comes in, I think people are going to be unwilling to pay.